Hi, and today I'm joined by To Die For. I have Filip and Agni who make activated nuts. Filip and Agni, welcome.
Thanks,
Hi.
Adrian.
What is an activated nut?
What it is that you need a raw nut, like a really raw nut. It can't be a nut that has been after farming processed or cracked with too much heat. It needs to be raw quality. And what you do is you soak that nut in water, like you're starting to sprout a seed. So we soak it with a little bit of salt to activate the seed to become ready for sprouting. So because the seed has all sorts of chemicals that actually inhibit sprouting, so that animals don't eat it, that it just doesn't, yeah, it protects itself with chemicals that are bitter, that are, yeah, things like this. I don't go too much into detail. So then what we do is we soak it, and by soaking, the water takes out these chemicals, so the seed gets ready for sprouting. That we called activation. This is actually something, there was no term for it. This term activated nut is something we came up with. And so that is what we start. We don't bring it to sprouting. We stop it. We take it out of the water and then we dry the seed. And this is what is an activated nut and not a sprouted nut. So
Okay,
you get the nutritions that are actually in the nut ready to be actually received by the digestive system. And the digestive system doesn't need to do the work to break down the nut into available nutrition. So we pre-digest the nut, you could say, and make it tasty. Yeah.
so are you saying that it makes more of the nutrition available?
Yes. Yes. Because otherwise the body needs to do the work.
And does it make it easier to digest as well?
Yes. Yes.
Are there any ways that you can tell how much it is better for someone? Do some people say they struggle to eat normal nuts, but they are okay with activated nuts?
Definitely we get that feedback.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, we get that feedback a lot, and a lot of people who have digestive problems or what is it in English? The word here we go, but an inflamed stomach. That when you activate a nut, you have less allergens in the nut, less phytic acids, so these people can digest them better. We have some athletes. Which just recently they tested our nuts and they feel that they can digest them easier. They get more valuable nutrients out of the nuts. So they can resorb them better, and they feel that they have more constant energy through the activation process. But you know, you will ask next question: is there also scientific evidence? Not yet, but it's really hard to actually get that. But we have so much anecdotal feedback from people that it's definitely working.
Yeah. I feel like the anecdotal is really the only one that matters. And if people are really in touch with their body, then they would know what it's doing for them.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
You said that the nuts protect themselves from animals eating them.
Mhm.
So d would that suggest then that maybe people who have nut allergies, they might be okay with an activated nut?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as say, if somebody dies when they eat a walnut, to say, oh, eat ours. But we know people, we have feedback from people who actually have allergies who can eat ours.
Yeah. And I do a lot of samplings. So I'm directly at the customers in stores, just because it's super interesting. And I have a lot of people that come up with nut allergies. And if it's just small allergies, I always do the test with them. And they definitely say it's less itchy. You know, some people get red in the head, some people have real issues, and it's definitely way less. But like we cannot claim it's for every single allergy, but the 9 out of 10 people definitely say, hey, I can finally eat nuts again. I can enjoy nuts again. And this is a real game changer for many people.
I mean, that's extraordinary. That's literally unbelievable because nut allergies are such a problem at the moment. And when I was at school, no one had a nut allergy. No one. But now, obviously, it's very common. So, do you have any idea where that might have come from? People having problems with eating nuts?
I think there's more allergies everywhere. I think that's also because, like everything is more tidy. People are more into eating probably food that, less dirt. Like if something falls on the ground, people wouldn't pick it up anymore. So it's everything is a bit more sterile on one hand. But then I
Mm,
think also on the other hand that a lot of the crops or food are just modified or just grow much quicker so that they increase on gluten and certain things are just through that they're growing quicker and that they're highly modified, that there's more of those highly allergen ingredients in those crops or whatever foods there are. I think that's one of the things. What do you think, Agni?
Yeah, I think the same. I think the second thing you say, there's so much they create seeds and and create plants by in the weirdest manners. I mean, to have nuts grow, have nut trees, have carry more nuts, and be sure they have nuts always, and there's no fluctuation in the kilos one tree carries, and all this sort of stuff, of course, affects us. And
yeah.
I would even go as far as, I mean, if you look at California, how they, when you look at the plantations, they are like sterile. It's terrible. It's like it has nothing to do with organic growing. Even the organic plantations look like as if somebody has been there with a pincette, you know, taking out all the weed, and then they carry the bees in big trucks from one plantation to the other so that they get pollinized, you say in English? Yeah. And all of these things, they definitely affect the food.
Wow, that's pretty terrifying. I
No,
saw a video recently of in China, they have a whole region where they have to pollinate by human because they have no insects. So
right.
you have people going around with a stick,
Yeah.
which is terrifying.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
So, okay, so it sounds like you care very much where you source nuts from then.
Definitely. That's our very first, that's the very first step.
What kind of what kind of things do you have to look for versus what might be more conventional or industrial farming?
Okay, no, we don't even think about anything conventional. We only go biological. We never ever uh, looked or thought about conventional. Never. This is like, I don't know, I wouldn't eat some, something, like that. So that was the first thing that we definitely said. And then we tried, of course, even to look for biodynamic and for raw. And that is a big issue because you find mostly that the processing plants that process the cracking of the nuts, because you have the outer shell, the flesh, so to speak, on a nut, then you have the hard shell, and then you have the seed. And in order to take the nut out of the soft shell, then they get soaked, and then they get dried, right? And then they get mechanically taken out of the hard shell in different ways depending on the nut. And in that process, in the modern processing plants, they use extreme heats to re-dry the seed. They can't sell, first of all, to dry it after they soaked it to get the flesh off. And then also the seedling has to have a certain percentage of moisture only. so that they can actually store them, because otherwise they would just mold. So that when you let that process happen rather naturally, it takes a long time and a lot of manual work. You have to lay them out, you have to shift them, you have to bring air into the system. And the modern plants, they have huge cylinders. You have to imagine like a, I don't know, like a round train wagon or something. They put in the nuts on one end and then it gets circulated like in a dryer, you know, and they use way over 100 degrees to dry them.
Right. Okay.
So whatever you buy as a raw nut in the supermarket is not a raw nut. It's
Wow. Okay.
it's not so. But of course, that's how they can keep the prices down because they don't need a long time. They don't need huge areas where they can dry them. So then you get cheap nuts. And that is in the conventional, of course, but in the biological sector, as much so. It's it's not so easy to find small farms or corporations that have one processing plant where many farmers bring their nut, but they treat them still in a way where they don't use heat in order to dry.
Mm. But is it just the processing, or do the farms that you go to, do the growers you use care very much about the soil as well?
Yes, both. You
Yeah.
need both. Ideally, you need both. You need to look. You need to go to places and look. Otherwise, you cannot. You need to be interested in the farmer. You need to have a relationship to small farmers. And that's why I say it's so important for us because we are small. Yeah. So we need to have close relationships to our suppliers who are small farmers who don't have like thousands of tons of nuts, to keep us in mind, to love to work with us, to trust, so that we get the nuts we need.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if we don't, we have a problem.
Well, that's amazing that you do. I think one of the biggest problems that we have, not just in food, but probably every industry, is that we're so removed from understanding where our food comes from or where our product comes from. I think if people realized what happens during industrial farming or industrial processing, I don't think they would go near that food.
No, I don't think so either. But it's difficult, and you need to make the, I mean, we need to make the effort, and it's also a risk always, because we are in the same boat with the farmers. We don't have like 10 people or 20 who can sell us pistachios, for example.
Mm.
We need to really rely on this one. We have two that we know the pistachios are where they come from, they are good. We know how they are processed. So if like last year it was, Philip, wasn't it, that the harvest was so bad in
Yeah.
Spain? We are in trouble. And then we are in trouble together. And to have this sort of respect also for the farmers and the work they do, and then to say, okay, we are in this boat together, that is needed if you want to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's really important also to know your farmers, and I think Agni is a bit understated on this, but she's been traveling the world. She's in charge of product. She's been to every single farmer. Like she goes in the front, she talks to the farmer, she sees, like she looks them in the eyes, figuring out what kind of people they are. And but then
Yeah.
also they go out on the field, and you always know how they're farming. And I think for us, as you say, it's quality. We're not compromising on quality, and it's so important that we get that full visibility and transparency, that we know are the which part of the fields are these nuts coming from, how are they being cracked, how are they being stored when they come to us, so that we have the full control, and that comes at a price, and I think, but it's worth it. And I think the important thing, which Agni also said, is this that a raw, and raw means that they're still able to sprout these nuts. And we find it very, very difficult to get nuts in this quality. But there are farmers that are super proud and pride in what they're doing. And that's what they do. They just want to grow the best nuts in the world. And we take these nuts and we enhance them with our fermentation, with our activation process. And I think that that's where the base is laid with our farmers. And it took us 12, 13 years to build those relationships.
It's
Wow. Okay.
nerds. We are nerds and they are nerds. Think that it needs nerds. Yeah.
Well, my understanding of the food industry is that's really important to
Yeah.
be connected to it. So, okay, just as someone, as an outsider to activated nuts, to me, the process sounds quite simple. Obviously, sourcing, I understand that side, but the actual making an activated nut sounds simple. But is it like making bread or chocolate? Is there actually more to it, even though you've got very simple ingredients?
Yeah.
Oh, I would like to jump in here. I think
Yeah,
no,
do.
the initial recipe is 3,000 years old. People in the Meds they put soak their nuts in the Mediterranean Sea, and then they dry them on nets on shore. And I think that's how it all started. And so we picked up that recipe and then obviously started to fine tune it. So in theory, it's very simple. Just soak them in fresh water. We have spring water, what we use, and then sea salt, and then slow dry them until they're in perfect condition and finished with fermentation process. But to actually do so, it takes a lot to really get there, because we've been perfecting that fermentation process over the last 15 years. And so it's what water do you use? So we're on a farm at the foothills of the Bavarian Alps. We have our own spring water. So that's, like quality is so important here again. Then we use two different types of salts. They're hand harvested in Brittany, one, and the other one in Croatia. So also there, you can use any salt, but which salt do you use? Then what temperature, for example, is the water? Then how long do you soak it? Then you take it out. Then we have developed specific ovens that are actually dehydrators, and they dehydrate our nuts specifically more with air than with temperature, because temperature kills a lot of the proteins and other valuable nutrients. So these ovens, I think we're on version 4 now. So, always improve them just to make sure that they're very gentle on the nuts, but they still dry them. Takes up to 2.5 days. So it's a very slow process. And yeah, people come up to me and ask me as well, like when I do some samplings in stores, can I do that myself? I was like, yeah, you can, but you will not have raw nuts. So are they still able to sprout? If they're not able to sprout, they're technically dead. So a lot of the valuable nutrients probably are in a different state or not existing anymore. Then what kind of water do you have? What kind of salt do you use? How do you want to dry them? At what temperatures for how long? So, and the difference is really big. We just had a customer. She's an athlete. Laura is her name. She tried it all herself because she has allergies and she can't digest raw nuts properly. So she tried it all and she never was succeeded in actually creating the nuts that she could perfectly digest. Now with our nuts, she says it's just a real game changer. Like she needs those nuts and she can digest them finally. So yes, you can do it yourself, but the result, like there's probably 50 different little factors that make it really special. And what you said is chocolate or bread. Go to a perfect great bakery, or you just get standard bread. It looks like bread, but it's such a difference. And that's what also we have to explain people. That they have 2 bags, 1 bag with their nuts, 1 bag with our nuts. And it looks like nuts. Aren't they nuts? No, they're not.
Yeah, it's a bit like that.
Yeah, just on a side note, the subject of wheat and bread I find really interesting because my understanding is that wheat is almost a complete food. So if you look after wheat and if you grow it properly,
Yes.
and I know in Germany they're really good at milling at home and then making bread almost immediately. So that must be a very nutrient-rich food for people. But with industrialization, obviously we've killed it. But I guess there's a similar story with nuts as well. And if you look after the nut, how it's grown, how it's processed, it probably delivers a much higher nutrient level than a conventional nut.
Absolutely. And for me, it's I also bake bread, sourdough bread. I have periods at least. I don't manage always. But the thing is that with the nuts and in the production, I notice the nuts are as strangely behaving according to some temperature that's going on outside. And, we have also strange things happening with the nuts, just like you have with sourdough bread. Uh, where some small change in the atmosphere can make such a difference, and you need to adjust the time, you need to, or with beer, it's the same, brewing beer. Anything, or tamari, soya sauce, a good brewed soya sauce is the same. You just need to
Mm.
look after it, you need to check the temperatures, you need to check the timing, and you have to do it every time. So
So, uh, how long did it take you to get your first product from setting up the business to selling it? Was it a quick thing? You needed a couple
two
of weeks?
years. 2 years, I would say.
2 years.
two
Wow.
years to source the nuts, to find. We did so much trials with the water, with the salts, with the nuts, with the ovens, because we had them specially built.
Wow. And is that a process? Because it sounded like, Philip, you were saying you're still improving the process now. So is it getting better all the time?
Yes, but I mean the big steps were at the beginning, so now it's really just fine tuning.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, and then every crop is different, and then we adjust, and we always try to improve. But I think we're probably about 90% there. So the room for improvement is very minimal these days. I think we've really wired it, and we know what's working. But still, even there, I think there's still room to improve. And it's interesting because a friend of mine asked me at once, in a high jumping comparison, why do you jump 1 meter 2 meters 30 instead of 1 meter 40 if the second best competitor is jumping at 1 meter 20? And it's like just because we want to be the best, like in every single touch point we have, it's all about getting the best nut. So that's also we don't fear competition. I think competition is actually good for us because it just helps to broaden the awareness for activated nuts because it's a magic thing because it just helps people to get better nourished. It's also it's a taste enjoyment with the umami taste, and I think that's where we see that quality comes in.
Yeah. And like speaking about competition, do you feel you have a lot of competitors?
I think in the old days, when Agni started before I joined the company, I think there was quite a few out there, but unfortunately, some of them they didn't make it, and we still see some guys coming in, but it's such a time-consuming and difficult process. I think that the big ones they don't bother with it, and there's a few small ones coming, but we don't really see that many. And sometimes we've also seen activated nuts. They're just, like they might be activated, but they just don't taste great and then don't feel right. So currently, no, we don't really see big competition. I think in the United States, there's some companies they sprout. They call activation sprouting, but we haven't seen any big ones. Even now at Biofach or at other trade shows, we do a bit of research. But on the other hand, we're really focused on what we're doing. I think that's more important. So we don't really care what other people do. We just want to do the best we can, and we have a great concept, great activation process. So yeah. the question answered, we don't really see much competition, but also we don't think. I think on one hand it will help to grow the market. On the other hand, it's good to have people out there who go in the same direction.
Yeah, yeah. But do you think it's a demand issue or a supply issue? Because I understand it's a complex process. I also understand there's a premium to pay for these kind of nuts. But do you think people just don't understand why it's a good idea to eat nuts that are well sourced and easily to digest and highly nutrient rich?
Think it's a bit of everything. I think, and on one hand, sometimes our nuts are almost double the price of a normal, let's call it a normal nut. And I
Mhm.
think for a lot of people, this is hard to understand because, as I said, it looks like a nut, uh, but it's not like a nut. So the explanation to get people to understand the benefits, but then also the value of the nuts. It's a long journey, and we're seeing it's almost like generating little bushfires. So that word of mouth is kind of the marketing we use. So it's just happy customers, people who have tried our nuts that they actually start to talk to other people, but then also gift them to other people or recommend them to other people. And I think that's where we see this happening, that people understand the real value. It's interesting. They come from, "Ooh, these nuts are expensive," to, "Ooh, these nuts are value for money." And I think that's the real thing. But that's if they're just in a shelf in a let's say in a Planet Organic or a Whole Foods, you don't see that, and it's hard to just have it on a label to explain all of that. So I think it's a small movement where it goes, but we could still probably quadruple our business with the quality of nuts, but it's not limitless. So I think it's not that we can. It's not like other brands where you can just scale, and that's also we don't want. We want to grow. And sometimes it's almost we compare ourselves with if you plant a seed, how long does it take until the tree has grown and you can harvest for the first time? And you just have to look after it, and the harvest will come. So we're still a small company, but we still believe we can and we have to grow to really make a living from it. But it's a passion project, so it's not about being bigger, but we also see, going back to what you're saying, the nuts. There's more and more farmers that actually start to grow crops in that quality and make sure that it's raw, it's still uh, be able to germinate. And there's also what we saw just at Biofach last week. There's more people actually, or farmers and corporations or cooperativas who sell those nuts. So I think
Yeah.
we can grow together with the farmers, but also with the customer who start to understand the benefits.
And so how was it in the beginning then to find customers? That must have been difficult if to communicate the value of the nuts to them.
Definitely. It's education. I think it needed and still does need a lot of education. People don't buy this product not understanding it, you know. It's not something that sells like, I don't know, candy, you know, that looks poppy or something. It's just not like that. And in the beginning, we started, me and my husband started, my husband died some years ago in an accident, and he started it with a friend, actually, his best friend started it in Australia. And so he said he's going to do it in Europe. And so he started the whole thing here. And we started from scratch, from with the farmers in our way. And um, and it needed, my husband was, the first thing he did, he just, because he was English, so we made them, the first activated nuts, and he went straight to Planet Organic, to the boss at that time, with a plastic bag and said, "Look, this is what I've got. Try. You want them?" But that was because he was that kind of guy, you know. And then then with that, I don't remember how it was. Then if Marigold actually contacted him or the other way around, I don't know. Then Marigold got on board and wanted them, the nuts. And this is how it all started rolling. And it was because my husband said he needs to start in England, in Europe, because that's his home turf, you know. That's where he can start. So we produced here in Germany, but started selling in England.
And so it sounds like it was really about you have to get people to taste it.
Yes,
And once they've done that, they
that's right.
understand, okay, there's value to this. One of my
That's
favorite books that I read recently is called The Dorito Effect, which
yes,
talks about, yeah, it sounds like you know it. So it talks about how we can intuitively eat, we just had to follow our taste. And my guess is when you try one of the to die for nuts
that's
and
it.
compare it to conventional, you probably notice, okay,
Exactly.
there's a
Yeah.
big difference.
Yeah. This is how we've always said this is the only way to do advertisement for these nuts.
Yeah.
And also with kids, you know, we have one farmer in Portugal, one of my favorite people. He's a Swiss French guy who started biodynamic farming in Portugal in the 70s, late 70s. One of the most beautiful people I know. He's a scientist actually for agriculture, but then started his own farm. And he always, when he starts new plants and he tries different sorts of nuts or he also grows peaches. He says he just puts different sorts on the table and then he lets the kids come in. And you can be sure that the children always just pick they try each one, but then they stay with one plate. You don't need to say anything. They pick the best one. And then he says, okay, then I know this is the tree I'm going to grow more of.
Oh, that is fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
He says, you can just go by children.
Yeah.
And the children, it's the same with our nuts, you know, like our kids, even kids that say, oh, no, nuts, you know, when they eat ours, it's very different.
That's so funny. Because for me, nuts must be about 30% of my diet, I think, because I think they're great. They're the best snack.
I think so too.
Yeah. And then, so when you started, were you doing internet sales or were you selling into stores like Planet Organic, that kind of thing?
You know, it started with Planet Organic. That I'm 100% sure of. When
Was that when Renee Elliott was there? She must have been, I
I
guess.
think
Yeah,
so. I
yeah,
think
yeah.
so.
Because
I think,
she's back now, which is
Yeah.
really good.
yes. No, I think it was her. You know, my husband was the person who really did this all, and I was more in the background with the farmers and the trying the different ways of soaking them, and because I'm good at this sort of thing. But it was really him who was with doing the business part. So I don't really know all the names.
Hmm.
But it was definitely Renee, and it's
It
great.
was Renee, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think soon after that, we became listed in
Marigold.
no, Marigold was the distributor, correct? But
Right.
I went into
Whole
Whole
Foods.
Foods Market and then some other, yeah, it's quite a few other retailers in the UK, all organic. And then COVID came and it all kind of shook it up a bit. But that was all pre-COVID. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
then when did you join, Philip?
I joined during COVID, 2020.
Right, okay.
Beginning 2020.
And you focus more on the business side?
Yes.
Yeah. So was there a difference when you joined? Did you change the strategy or have you noticed an increase in sales or business?
Yeah, I think because we were based in Germany, Agni's husband, he was focused on the UK. We started to focus on Germany because it's on our doorstep. and it's a good market for organic products. So we did kind of looked at our packaging, just made it suitable for Germany, also just from language point of view. Also gave it a bit of a revamp and started to grow the direct to consumer. So we started to build a proper web shop, but it also became much easier. Like technology was then just much easier to do that, and we're growing really quick now, actually, on direct to consumer, because it's still a niche. The people who are receptive or looking for activated nuts or premium raw nuts, and so it's easier to find them in the web rather than in stores. I think we have some stores that sort of, we call them lighthouse stores, where you just have to be positioned in. That's where people also go in and look for new products, like, as you say, Whole Foods or Planet Organic in the UK, and it's called Manufaktum or Cavers in Germany. And but the future seems to be for us, for people who are becoming regular nut eat or have been regular nut eaters, but then upgrade to activated nuts. And then we also have a subscription model. So people just get every 4 or 8 weeks, they get their batch of freshly activated nuts, and they're just so happy. They don't have to think of anything anymore. They know they found their nuts of choice, and we can ship them. So I think that's our strategy right now. If we become a bit more mainstream and people actually recognize activated or our to die for live foods nuts in stores, I think then we probably can go a bit broader as well. But right now, direct to consumer through our website is really where we see the biggest potential.
That's really fascinating. I think for a food product to have the main channel through a website, that's quite unusual.
Yeah.
But probably also good. I imagine that's a quite a regular sales level, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, as you say, 30% of your diet is nuts. So there's many other people. And if you have your nut of choice, and and you, because if you're really into food, you want to know where that food
Yeah.
comes from, where it's grown. I'm sitting here on our farm, or it's not our farm, but that's where we have our production. So it's completely in our hands. We don't outsource anything. So it's really coming from the farms to our production to the customer. There's only 2 steps. And I think that's what people want. They want full transparency. Also, when you look at our products, we don't add anything. It's just spring water with specific harvested sea salt, the nuts, and that's it. So it's as clean, as transparent, as non-processed as you can get. But through that fermentation, activation process, we unlock the full potential of nature.
Yeah. I mean, it's very important to me when I'm sourcing food to know that someone cares about the supply chain and where it's sourced from. And obviously, I can't be involved in every supply chain. So trusting the people that I buy from
Yes.
is really important. So it definitely matters to me that there are people like you that exist who do care about that kind of thing.
Nice.
You said that you don't necessarily want to be like the big global monopoly, but how do you feel that you would like to keep it growing? And if possible, would you like to convert everyone to eating good nutrient-rich nuts?
Yes,
Definitely.
sure. I mean, we don't, I think, if you look at how many McDonald's are out there still,
Yes.
we're not going to convert everybody. People are into rubbish food on a big scale, but there is a small percentage of people, and I believe it's growing, that really want to eat healthy, tasty, and sustainably. And I think that's our target group. And yes, we can still grow quite a bit. We don't know how big, but yeah, if you're talking about can we help the world to become a bit healthier, a bit more conscious, and also spread a bit more joy. I think that's what we can do. But to what level, I think if you're on a journey in life, you never know what's going to happen next, and I think that's where magic can happen, and we grow to the levels that we cannot supply more. And I think we will never compromise on quality through quantity. And I think we don't know where this journey is taking us. I think we're happy to activate more and more people. And I think that's, we probably need to talk in 3 or 4 years again and then see where the journey takes us. But I don't have a crystal ball to see where the journey goes. But of course, if we can help and spread more health and joy, we'll do it.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And then thinking about your values, I know you've talked there in this conversation a lot about health and the quality of the food and the nutrition. Would you say those are your core values?
I mean,
Definitely. I
yeah.
mean, for me, definitely. I think to me, consciousness is my core value. And I know that I can't nurture that in me if I would eat unhealthy food. It's just not possible. You can't be stuffing yourself with McDonald's and be conscious. It's just not possible. And the other way is that I think I'm just so sure in my experience and experiencing other people that the more I really take care of what I eat and make sure it does me good and my body is happy, then I can be more alert
Yeah.
to things around me and to myself and to everything going on. And I have more patience, I have more space for others, all this. And to me, nobody can tell me it's not that way.
Yeah. So
I've
when you say conscious, do you mean being aware of what happens in the supply chain, or are you talking more
everything.
about energy?
Conscious about about energy, about my environment, about the people around me, about my own inner reflection on myself,
Hmm.
yeah, on my state of being. I think that goes all hand in hand.
Yeah.
It's consciousness is either there or it's not there, and when it's there for everything. It's a
Yeah.
bit like that. Yeah.
And do you think your customers feel the same way? Would you call them conscious as well?
I'll probably jump in here because I see
Yeah.
our customers on a regular basis
Yeah, you
who
see them.
jump on that, and absolutely. So they're even if they make a conscious decision to go into an organic store rather than into
That's right.
a supermarket, so that's I think where it starts, and they're really interested in what they eat, why they eat it, what it does to them. And a lot of the people have made a bad experience or different experiences with other food, and they trust the value of food, and they have this self-reflection on what's good for them, what's not good for them. So I think, yeah, there's definitely a certain consciousness there.
You know what I also think, sorry to interrupt, it's a priority, and with our nuts, that's definitely so. I also make the priority. How do I spend my time and my money? I rather spend it cooking healthy food and buying proper food and organic food, than quickly stopping at a kiosk and buying French fries. I make sure that if I travel in with the train somewhere, that I take food rather than buy some shitty thing on the way. So all these, it's a priority, and I think and this I definitely feel all our customers have. This sort of priority, and the way they give feedback is also reflective.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
As the Romans said, what is it? A healthy mind in a healthy body. Don't know
yeah,
exactly like that, but I think that's what you also see, that that's part of the consciousness. And I think a lot of people understand, if you eat healthy, if you eat well, it also affects how you can think. It affects your energy, it affects your intelligence, or your space in your mind. And then you start to get into this longevity. How can I grow old, healthy, and long. And I think, food is one of the key five elements, right? And there we see that we're an integral building block with those nuts, and that's where people also come in. Like you say, hey, I'm eating a lot of nuts. And there's a good reason for that, because it does you good. And if you eat activated nuts from us, you can even enhance that and feel even better and enjoy more, because taste
Yeah.
is even a notch up.
Yeah. I just discovered, do you know the country Bhutan near
Yes.
Tibet? And the way they measure success is about happiness. So they don't look at gross domestic product, but they have like gross domestic happiness or something. And I
Yes,
think
in Bhutan,
that's that's amazing.
it's
Why do
incredible.
more countries not do that? It seems to make so much sense. So, okay, so I appreciate you're busy. I just have a couple of questions. First one is, I don't see any peanuts in the range. Is there a reason for that?
Well, first of all, peanuts are not nuts. Peanuts is a pulse, which is we once wanted to make a muesli, or we made one to try, like a granola, and for that we activated buckwheat, which
Oh,
worked
wow.
wonderfully, and it's just very, very messy. But it's wonderful and it tastes wonderful. So
Really nutty.
yeah, nutty and crunchy and airy and everything. It's just that the whole production is full of, because it has this very fine skins, and when they dry in the dehydrator, the whole production is
Yeah.
full of this stuff. So maybe one day again. But anyway, and the peanut in itself is very acidic, extremely acidic for the body, the digestive process. It gets digested acidic. So it's never been an interest. And you would have to source raw peanuts, which is also very hard to get. And then I've never tried it, because I've never had an interest in them,
Mm,
really. So I never tried it. I wouldn't be able to tell you if it's possible, how they would be. Don't know.
very interesting. Okay. And then my last question, which is your favorite product from the range? Agni, do you want to go first?
Changes all the time. I have, we always make jokes, we have these periods. Like, for example, I haven't eaten pumpkin seeds from our range in years, just to try when they come from the dehydrator. But I never took them home for some reason. And now, when I was in hospital, I thought, oh God, I feel like pumpkin seeds. I have to eat pumpkin seeds. So Philip brought me pumpkin seeds. Since then, I'm addicted to pumpkin seeds. So I have always these periods. I have periods I only eat pistachios. Then I eat my almonds. It's like I go like this.
You're listening to your body.
I listen to my body, and yeah, there's always a period for something, and then I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah, yeah. Philip, how
Yeah,
about you?
no, it's very similar for me. And as Hadrian, you listen, your body actually tells you what you need. And I didn't eat much almonds for a while, and suddenly I'm eating almonds all the time. And it's really interesting. But also, so what's good for us, we have a nut mix, which actually combines almost all the nuts. And I love to eat that nut.
That you love,
It has all the flavors and expands on it. But yeah, currently almonds and pistachios. I started off with walnuts. Walnuts is also where we believe you can feel the difference the biggest, because walnuts are really, like kind of bitter. They taste a bit oily, but not in a nice way normally. But ours, they just really lose that bitterness, and also the allergic reactions that you have, like with this kind of sore tongue, and that's kind of we call it the entry drug. So that where you can sort of join the To Die
yeah.
for Life Foods journey. But then I think it really just plays around, which is just beautiful. And I've been with the company almost 6 years now. I eat every day these nuts, and I cannot think of another product that I just could eat every day with enjoyment, and that's amazing.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, that's the thing, I think. That's the thing. I can't live without them.
Yeah.
That's also part why we do it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's part of the motivation, and
Yeah.
it just feels so good. And I feel better than 5 years ago. It's just also changed. And let's get back to the consciousness. I feel just by eating those nuts, I started to look at my sleep. I looked at what kind of sports do I play? How much exercise do I do? Also, what kind of people do I surround myself? Do they, suck energy, or do they give me energy? And it's kind of, to us, it's almost like a journey in life to activate nuts. And
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Also, one thing that I love that you talked about is using spring water,
Mm.
which I feel like is, that's quite next level to do that. But
Yeah,
I,
we looked for a production place. Just that was the had to be that we don't source water from just the uh, from the community, but that it's our own well.
yeah,
Mm.
because for me personally, water is extremely important. Like
Mm.
it's so important. And I think there's someone who talks about water a lot called Veda Austin, and she talks about our bodies are the number of molecules in our body are 99% water. So
Mm.
it's an enormous amount of our body that is water. So you better make sure that what you have is going to work with you. So
That's
the
right.
idea that you're using spring water that's just amazing. That's because it's not even that it's just really well filtered water, which is not the same thing at all, I don't believe.
no,
No.
So I'm very impressed.
Yeah, it's spring water and my husband, he also studied macrobiotics when he was young. And he always said the water and the salt is so important. And if you have industrialized salt, where they use certain things in order to make it be fine or to get it, from out of the water or whatever, there are so many ways how it can really, because the body is made from salty water, it can really make you feel miserable. And he always said to me when we went out for dinner or something, he said, "Oh God, I feel so miserable. The salt they use in the food." And he made me, it's so clear to me always. And he said, "Yeah, that's it. In the restaurants and wherever you go, they use, even if it's a good restaurant, yeah, they always use shitty salt."
Do you use different salts with different, you mentioned
Yes,
two different salts. So do you have
yes,
different salts for
we
different
have,
things?
and special salts that are not having any industrial processing. There is no extra stuff in it. It's very clumpy and yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
brilliant. Well, listen, I would happily talk to you all day, but I'm conscious of the time. So
Yes,
thank you very much, both of you.
you're
That was
very
amazing.
welcome.
thank you, Adrian. Great to talk to you.
Yeah.